Don't even think about saying another word to your ex until you watch this video. I'll explain why in just a sec. Hi, my name's Kevin, and in this short presentation, you're going to learn the real reason why you failed to get your ex back, and how doing what you're doing might actually be pushing them away even further, and killing any chance you have of getting them back, getting over them, or being friends with them later. Watch this video until the end, and you'll also learn the number one thing that you absolutely must do right after a breakup if you ever want to feel better ever again. First, I have to warn you. What I'm going to share in this video is controversial, and it's going to fly in the face of conventional wisdom. I'm going to expose a simple yet horrible truth about love and relationships that will probably hurt you at first and might even make you mad. But I'm going to do it anyway because this one little secret can easily give you the power back in your relationship. I've actually taught the secret to some of my private clients, and they've used it to completely turn their life around. These people paid me a lot of money to learn the secret, so to be fair to them, I'm only going to share this with a few more people, and then I'll be forced to take this video down forever. Now, I don't know how you found this video in the first place, whether you clicked on something online or you got an email about it from me or one of my friends. Whatever the case may be, make sure you watch it now while it's still online, because I don't know how much longer I'm going to leave it up. So before we dive in, I got a question for you. Does it feel like your relationship has completely consumed your entire life? Do you keep replaying everything in your head, analyzing what happened, wondering what you could have done differently? Do you ever feel this crazy, overwhelming urge to contact them? Have you sent them text after text or left long, rambling voicemails and emails, pouring out your heart to them and telling them how much you love them? If you're anything like me after my breakup, then you've probably already tried everything you could possibly think of to get back with your ex. But no matter what you did, what you said, how hard you apologized, or how much you promised to change, it's felt like ramming your head again and again into a brick wall. And now you're probably wondering the same thing that thousands of people have before you. Why? How is it that the person who used to love you and look at you with so much love and desire won't even give you the time of day? How could they just totally shut down their feelings for you while you can barely even go a day without thinking about them? All you want is just one conversation with them, for them to open up and share how they feel. Yet all you seem to get is cold one-word responses, and you constantly feel like you're the one waiting around on them, hanging on their every last word, and analyzing it to death trying to figure out what you should do. Or perhaps you're not getting anything at all. Maybe they're just downright ignoring you and all the silence is killing you. Or maybe you're stuck in an on-again, off-again relationship where you guys are constantly breaking up and getting back together. You wish you could just get things back to how they used to be, but you're sick of all the stress and you don't want to go on living like this. You want so desperately for it to work, but it feels like the relationship is on its last breath and you're starting to lose hope. Or perhaps you've already gone your separate way, but they keep coming back into your life, telling you how much they love you and miss you, and how they want to get back together with you. And of course, you always end up taking them back and then beating yourself up for it a few weeks later. Not to mention all the shit you get about it from your friends and family. Or maybe they've already moved on and found someone else, while you're stuck all alone, thinking about them, wondering if you'll ever find someone again. Or perhaps you're the one that ended the relationship, whether it was because you found out they cheated on you, or maybe you just weren't happy, but now you're having some second thoughts. Regardless of what situation you're in, it's obviously taking a huge toll on your life. It might even be affecting to the point where you have trouble eating and sleeping. You lay in bed at night wondering how they could just throw everything away so easily, especially after all the time you spent together. Didn't this mean anything to them? Is there still a chance you guys might get back together, or is this really it? And if it is, what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to move on with your life without thinking about them and without worrying about what they're doing or how they really feel about you? And maybe that's what you've been trying to do, but you just can't stop thinking about them. Every song you hear reminds you of them, and every place triggers a memory that you guys had together. You can't concentrate at work or at school, and you just can't seem to focus on anything. It's like you have to muster up all the energy you have just to get through the day. It's almost like you're walking around in a daze and you don't even feel like yourself anymore. You try to stay strong and act like everything's fine, but you just feel numb inside. Some days it feels like you're doing fine, but then something happens and you're right back at square one again. It's like you're constantly taking one step forward and two steps back. And you're probably wondering, when is this pain going to stop? And how do I get rid of it so that I could finally get back to normal again? If any of this sounds familiar to you, I want you to know that you're not alone. I was actually in the same shoes as you until I discovered a secret. This secret is what allowed me to not only get my ex back, but also be okay with myself when the relationship eventually ended just a few months later. The secret is also what allowed me to stay friends with my ex after we broke up and actually maintain a normal, healthy relationship where neither of us acts all weird or jealous. Now, you're probably wondering, what's the secret? I call it the attachment principle. Now, I'll explain exactly what it is in just a second. First, I need to tell you the weird story of how I discovered it. This is a story that I'm actually pretty embarrassed to share, yet it's one that you absolutely need to hear because it'll help you figure out what you should do. So I'm going to tell you my embarrassing story first, and then I'm going to explain the attachment principle and the number one thing you need to do next. Deal? Cool. Now, I wasn't always a relationship expert or a best-selling author interviewed on dozens of radio shows sharing advice on how to survive a breakup. In fact, I was completely clueless when it came to relationships. Every time I was dumped, which happened a lot more than any sane man would ever want to admit, it would always devastate me. I would sit at home all alone, driving myself nuts, thinking about everything that happened. I'd obsess over every little thing to the point where it would literally consume me and keep me from living my life. I remember the day that it got so bad that I finally decided enough was enough. I'm going to share the story with you now, even though it's really embarrassing for me. You need to know just how low I sank before I finally discovered the stuff I'm going to share with you today. It was a warm spring night, and I was walking back home from the gym. I just had an amazing workout, and there was a rush of endorphins coursing throughout my body. As I was walking, I suddenly felt my phone vibrate. I reached into my pocket to see who it was. It was my girlfriend. I got a text from her saying, "Hey, my roommate's going out of town for the weekend. You should come over." Now, if I got that text a few months ago, I'd be really excited because I knew we were in for a fun night. But at that point, we hadn't had sex in over a month, and given how dysfunctional our relationship was, I really didn't think that's what she had in mind. Honestly, I didn't have a good feeling about this. We had been on and off for the past 3 months, and we even got to the point where we were that couple that was breaking up and making up every other week. It's really sad because everything was so great in the beginning. We were madly in love, and we thought we were going to spend the rest of our lives together. But as time passed, things started to change. We began fighting and arguing a lot more. We stopped having sex, and she started spending more and more time with her friends. And even when we were together, there was always this weird tension in the air. It's like we were always bickering about something. And the worst part was, I felt like I was the only one trying to keep us together. I was really frustrated, and I just wanted things to be normal again. But that night, I was afraid it was only going to get worse. When I got that text, I started to panic, and I called her to make sure everything was okay. She told me everything was fine, but deep down, I could tell that something was off. After I got off the phone, I felt a tight knot in the pit of my stomach, and I walked back home in a fit of panic, worried that tonight was going to be the night. I hopped in the shower and tried to snap myself out of it, but my mind was racing 100 miles a minute. I thought back to the last time she broke up with me and how it felt like my whole world was falling apart. I fought and did everything I could to try to convince her to stay, only to have my heart shattered by that cold, heartless look on her face. I didn't want to go through that again. I was absolutely terrified of going over there, and I hated myself for letting this get to me. I remember getting out of the shower and looking at myself in the mirror, wondering how the hell I even let myself get to this point. I felt totally lost and helpless. I dropped to the floor with my back against the wall and my head face down in tears, and I started sobbing uncontrollably. I didn't know what else to do. And at that moment, I honestly didn't even want to go on living anymore. I just wanted to crawl under a rock and forget about everything. I was depressed and I had no idea what to do. In fact, I felt like there was nothing that I could even do. And feeling so helpless only made me even more frustrated. I literally hit rock bottom. And it was at that moment that I finally decided to do something about it. I picked myself off the ground and I called one of my best friends for advice, the same friend that I confided in the entire relationship. I almost didn't even want to call him because every time I asked for advice, he'd always tell me the same thing. Dude, you need to let go and move on. And while deep down I knew that was probably the right thing to do, I didn't want to lose her. I didn't want to move on. I just wanted her. I just wanted things to go back to how they used to be. But I was so down and desperate that day that I decided to call him anyway. And boy, am I glad I did, because that night he said one simple sentence that literally changed my entire life. Here's what he said. At this point, she's only holding you back from becoming the person you deserve to be. I don't know what it was about that sentence, but a light bulb suddenly went off in my head. I realized this relationship was holding me back. I didn't like who I had become. I felt like I was always dependent on her, and it felt like my entire self-worth was constantly tied to every little thing she did or didn't do. And I was sick and tired of riding this emotional roller coaster. I endured it for months because I wanted so desperately for this relationship to work. But at that moment, something in me had shifted. I realized that this was no longer about her. It was about me. I didn't really realize it until that moment, but there was a part of me that felt like I needed her in order to be happy. Somewhere down the line, I made her responsible for my happiness, and now I felt like I couldn't go on without her. It's like I attached a part of myself to her, and every time she left, I was suddenly faced with this empty void. That's when I realized that I can never depend on other people to make me happy. Sure, they can add to my happiness, but I should never let them define it. This was a big aha moment for me, and in that moment, I made a decision that changed everything. I decided that I was going to do whatever it takes to be happy on my own, so that nothing would affect me like that ever again. After I got off the phone with my friend, I told myself this was it. I wasn't going to fight to get her back like I did in the past. I was going to move on with my life and rebuild myself so that I'd never feel so weak and desperate ever again. I sat down in my bed and I spent a few minutes bracing myself for what I had to do. Then I got up and grabbed my jacket and I headed out the door. I texted her on my way over and told her to meet me downstairs. I walked over there feeling calm and collected. As I turned the corner right before her building, I saw her face in the window waiting for me downstairs. I walked into the building and we took the elevator up with that long, dreaded silence. The tension in the air was so thick that you could cut it with a knife. As we walked into her apartment, I took off my coat and I tossed it on the couch right next to me. And then it happened. My worst fear came true when she said the four little words that everyone hates to hear. We need to talk. In the past, I would have totally lost my composure and started panicking, trying to think of something to say to prevent her from leaving. But this time was different. I was totally cool, calm, and collected. I just sat there totally present, listening to everything she had to say. And after she finished, I just sat there calmly and said, okay. I told her that breaking up is probably the best thing for both of us right now. And I felt an incredible sense of peace as I said that. I felt like nothing in the world could affect me. And then I glanced back at her and I could tell she was beginning to lose her composure. Come on, say something, she yelled. Don't act like you're not hurt by this. You don't have to try to be strong right now. I just sat there calmly, looked her right in the eye and said, I'm not. Everything's okay. I even let out a sly little smile as I said that. I was shocked at how well I was handling this. I could tell she was starting to get really uncomfortable. She was probably expecting me to freak out like all the other times she broke up with me. And there I was, perfectly fine, with or without her. Now, you're never going to believe what happened next. She suddenly backtracked on everything she said, told me she loved me, and didn't want to leave me. Then she grabbed me tight and held me like she never wanted to let go of me again. All of a sudden, she got really turned on and pulled me on top of her, telling me how badly she wanted to feel me inside her. I clutched her in my arms and we had the most passionate sex that we ever had that night. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty awesome. But here's what wasn't so awesome. Walking back to my place the next morning, disappointed in myself for giving in. I went over there all fired up, ready to hold my ground, and then I gave in at the first sign of affection like a helpless little sex-deprived puppy. Not only was I completely disappointed with myself, but I was ashamed of going back to my friend and to tell him what happened. Especially after you spent an hour on the phone with me, not to mention the countless hours that he spent helping me throughout the entire relationship. I felt humiliated when I told him what happened, and I felt even more embarrassed when we broke up a few months later, this time for good. But here's the surprising part. After we broke up, I wasn't nearly as devastated as I was before. Sure, it still hurt to lose her, but that feeling of edginess was gone. That empty feeling in the pit of my stomach, that tight pain in my chest, and that feeling of panic and desperation completely vanished. Now you might be wondering, how did I do it? And how was I able to get my ex back in the first place? Well, I didn't realize it at the time, but I actually stumbled upon a simple yet horrible truth about love and relationships.